So, hi. I posted a quote about leaving the church and how, like, when you leave the church, it's not that you're like looking for excuses to leave the church. It's actually a really like heartbreaking process and stuff. And I was really surprised because a lot of people commented and even more people messaged me and a lot of feedback from it. And I guess a big part of the reason why I got feedback is because I've never actually like gone public and told people that I was going through a faith crisis. Like, I know I mentioned to people that I was struggling with having a faith crisis, but I don't think I ever like went public with my decisions and stuff. So it kind of like maybe blindsided some people. And for that, I'm sorry. But here's my update. I am going to give the full breakdown of what is going on with me religiously and my thoughts about everything right now and where I'm at. So, man, this is hard. I just want to put a disclaimer out there right now. Right now, I am discovering myself and what I believe internally. I'm not looking to be reconverted to anything. I'm not interested in reinvestigating the LDS Church at the moment. I'm not saying that that's an impossible notion or that I won't do that in the future. Like, I have no idea what my life is going to look like, and I'm not about to cut myself off from anything. But I want to make a very big disclaimer that if you come at me with religious talk and try to convert me, or tell me that I have lost my faith and that you feel like you can fix it, I am not going to respond positively. I'm just letting you know right now. I mean, I'm not going to be mean. I don't believe in being mean, but I'm probably not going to respond at all, or I just won't respond positively. So please don't come at me with all of the knowledge of why you think this church is true and why you love it. I am totally okay if you believe in the church and if you're still a participant in the church. I just want to put that out there, so please, please, please don't come at me. Okay, so I'm going to share my story. It started when I was 18 years old. It started way earlier than that. I questioned the church from the get-go. Like, the second I could talk, I was questioning the church and asking my mom why we did this and why we did this. I always fought for everything. I fought girls' camp, and I fought stacking the chairs, and I fought and fought and fought. And I still could willingly admit I have obedience issues. I'm not someone who just blindly is obedient, and I don't like obedience. I actually, when people talk about obedience, they think of it as a positive trait. Well, I think of it as a negative trait. Anyway, so it started when I was really young with just my personality. And believe it or not, in the church that I went to, the ward, I should say, that I went to, I was actually physically abused by a couple of people, and not sexually or anything. It was actually with like pulling hair and kicking me and hitting me, and I thought that was normal because it was happening in elementary school as well with my teachers. I would just, for some reason, find teachers who didn't have a problem physically hurting kids, and that kind of bled into also my ward as well. I feel like I was just a difficult kid, and the way that they handled their kids was through physical conflict, and so that ended up coming out on me when I was very young. So if I didn't behave, if I didn't sit straight in my chair, if I, talked back to the teacher, it was met with sometimes being physically hurt. And that in and of itself really upset me and caused problems. So I think just like from the get-go, church was always a pretty traumatizing experience for me. Fast forward, at 17, I decided to commit myself to God and to church, and I really went on a mission to try to discover who God was and have a really good relationship with him. It wasn't really religious based, it was just, I used religion to get close to God, but at 17, it was really just developing a close relationship with God. And once I felt like I had a close relationship with God, I wanted to do more in religion. And so at 17, I actually met my husband, and we fell in love. And it was really surprising because he was not a return missionary, and I got a lot of hate and a lot of backlash for that, which was really surprising for me and really shocking, because it was like he wasn't a good person if he wasn't a return missionary, which is bullcrap. Like, he's perfect, so he's pretty close at least. So there was that, and that was really upsetting to me, because it was like nobody approved of who I chose to marry for the sole reasoning that he wasn't a return missionary. And I didn't want to marry a return missionary. I had heard too many horror stories about how you go on a mission and you think that you know someone because they're on a spiritual high, and then you wait a year, you get married, and you're like, well, you're not even the same person. So it was actually like something I didn't want for my life, and I didn't feel like that was wrong. So my choices were bad and sinful because of the person that I wanted to marry, even though he was super dedicated to God and really just a great guy, like amazing guy, still is. And at 18 years old, that is when we decided to go through the temple to get married. And that was because at the time, you couldn't just get married civilly and then the next day go get sealed. You had to get married in the temple. Like, that was like how they did it. And the next year they ended up changing it, which I'm still pretty bitter about. But anyway, they did it so that you got married and sealed on the same day. And that was your wedding day. That's when I think everything really changed for me. That's when I started to really question what I had just joined, and whoa, like, it was very hard for me. I felt like I had a good relationship with God, and then I went through the temple, and it was like the worst thing I could have done for my spirituality. And I don't say that lightly. I was not ready for it. I shouldn't have done it, but because I wanted to do something right and I wanted to be obedient, I wanted to do the right thing to do and get sealed in the temple like they brainwash you to believe when you're a teeny tiny. That's what I did, and I heavily regret it to this day. I wish I didn't do that. Get a little emotional talking about it because it was so hard for me. I was not ready. I don't think, looking back, I know that it's not important now, but I know that I wasn't ready for the temple, and that it was really a hard place for me, and I shouldn't have gone. Anyway, so yeah, so that started this whole whirlwind, and for the sake of respect, I'm not going to talk about all the things in the temple that really upset me and triggered me, because this is going on social media, and I love my mom and I love my family who is LDS, and I don't want to disrespect them and their beliefs. So I'm not going to talk about what happened in the temple and why it upset me. I will say that I cannot get behind the idea that just because you don't go through the temple, or just because you maybe we're not sealed to your family in the temple, now you're not saved. I don't like the idea of baptism. I feel like that's a whole scare tactic. I don't like the idea of covenants, because for me, it's all a scare tactic. Like, it's almost like being forced or coerced or manipulated into marriage. That's how it feels like to me. You can disagree, just keep it to yourself. That's how it feels to me. It really did. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel enlightening to me. It felt very upsetting. So, and that's how I felt about baptism, and still feel about baptism, and that's how I feel about all Christianity, where they say, do this or you can't be saved. Do this or you won't live with your family again. Do this or you're going to hell in any form or fashion. You must do A, B, C, or D, or you will live in hell, whether that's a state of mind or a physical place. I just don't believe that, and I cannot get behind that. And I feel like that's all Christianity religion, and that's what's really hard for me. So there's a lot there to unpack. Anyway, 18 rolls around, got married. At 19 years old, I took off my garments, and a lot of it had to do with mental health. A lot of it had to do with body image disorder and eating disorders, and I just did not feel sexy in garments. And I know that sounds silly, but at the time it was really destroying my mental health, and it was a very serious thing at the time. At the time, it actually caused suicidal tendencies, and it was not worth it to me to continue to wear my garments. And I know that can sound very vain and very weird to some people, but for me, it was a big, big deal. And I was 19 and I was very young, and it was a big deal to me. So I took off my garments, and that's what really, like, it was the temple and then taking off my garments. I took off my garments, and every night for 2 years while I took those garments off, I prayed the same prayer, but it was not a rehearsed prayer. It was deep, it was heartfelt, and it was dedicated. And it was, I get emotional talking about it, but it was, God, I just want to be good. I just want to know that you love me. I just want to be a good kid. And I'm so mad at myself that I'm not a good kid because I'm not wearing garments. And it upsets me now thinking about it, because I shouldn't have had to feel like that, because I wasn't doing something. Ooh. I really felt like I was going to hell. I really felt like, because I had taken off my garments, that I was a really bad person, that God was going to disown me and that he didn't love me. And every night it would be met with, I love you. Everything is okay. You still have divine worth to me. And don't worry about it. I don't care. And it was so shocking and so surprising, because he would reassure me every single night for 2 full years. I was getting permission from God in heaven to take off my garments, and he was telling me that he was okay with it, that he loved me, that he approved of me, and that it did not matter to him. And that really shook me, because all this time I was told that God was going to persecute me or not love me because I wasn't doing these specific tasks. So it really, really shook me in a good way. And I recognized that I really loved God, and I started to grow really close to God. Taking off my garments was the best thing I ever did spiritually for myself at the time. I still say to this day, it was one of the best things I ever did. It brought me closer to God. It brought me closer to, at the time, the church. It brought me closer to religion and spirituality. I feel like I understood God. I feel like I loved him. I felt like I was more dedicated to him when I took my garments off. And I thought about that, and I was like, this is backwards. This is so backwards from everything that I've been taught. Everything that I've ever been taught has been told to me that if I step away from the church in any way, that God will disown me, and that there will be consequences and my life will fall apart, etc., etc. But every time I get closer to religion, my life falls apart. And every time I step away from religion, my life falls into place. So I started to really question things at this time. Well, at 21, it was about 2 years after I took off my garments, I decided to put them back on again, because I really wanted to be a good person. I wanted to recommit to God. I felt like I went through the journey of loving him, and there was a lot more that came with that, but I was really dedicated to figuring them out. The garments, the church, organization, I was going to find the truth. And so taking off my garments, putting them back on, taking off my garments, putting them back on, it was all part of trying very hard to find the truth. So this next time that I put my garments on, it was because I felt like I was not going to understand them unless I used them and utilized them. And so I needed to know what I was missing, and I needed to know what I needed, whatever. So I put them back on, and I wore them and dedicated myself to religion, dedicated myself to God, went back to church, started to participate in my callings, etc., etc. Up until this point, I had gone completely inactive. So I did a 180. So I went from completely inactive to completely active again, and did everything you're supposed to do, quote unquote. And Man, some dark days. I felt so inauthentic. Every time I walked into the church building, my soul died. That's like the best way I can describe it. A depression sunk deep into my heart. I felt scared. I felt sad. I felt alone. I felt dark every time I entered the church. Do you see how like weird that is for me? Like it was weird. It was weird. And every time I didn't go to church on Sunday, I would feel good. Yep, I would feel good. So, I don't know. I thought it was Satan at the time. I thought he was working on me, and I had fallen into temptation at the time. I thought that if I just tried harder and was more dedicated, then I would fix it. So I read my scriptures even harder every single day. I never missed a conference talk. I never missed a general conference. I always read my scriptures. I said my prayers all the time. Like, I was dedicated. I thought if I can just get through this, then I will feel better. But I didn't. My mental health crashed. I felt worse. So, fast forward even more, 23 years old, going through miscarriages, dealing with life that I'm dealing with, and I went into an energy healing session, and, well, okay, wait, back up. The church came out with this stuff about energy work and how the church strongly discourages energy work. That is in the bishop's handbook, and that is when I spiraled. That is when everything up until this point crashed on me, and I was like, I don't know what I believe. Now I have to choose between my occupation and the thing that I love and the thing that has literally saved my life, or my religion. And I love both of them, and I don't want to give either of them up. And it really, really, really shook me, okay? So that in and of itself is what started this whole thing lately. And that's when I started questioning everything that I had ever been taught. Everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, the word of wisdom, the scriptures, going to church, saying my prayers, like all of it. I questioned everything. And through all of it, I knew one thing. I knew there was a God, I knew that he loved me, and I knew that I was special to him. And I knew that there is a Savior, and I knew that he heals me. And I knew that there is such thing as divine revelation. Whether or not I would call that the Holy Ghost is another story, but I knew that there was inspiration, and I knew that there was divine guidance, and I knew that God loved me, and I was not going to step away from God. Whatever religious path I took, whatever my spirituality life looked like, I was going to stay dedicated to God, and I still hold that value. That is important to me. However, when I turned 23, the bishop's handbook and everything came out with energy work, and there was a huge stir again, and it really shook my faith. Then everything with the vaccines came out, and the church's stance on vaccines, which I'm not going to get political. Do not come for me. That's not what this is about. Respect my beliefs. I respect yours, but I personally am anti-vax. I don't like vaccines. It's okay if you get one. I'm not going to shun you if you do. I'm okay if you put a whole bunch of vaccines in your kids. It's okay. We can still be friends. But I personally didn't believe in that, and I don't feel like the church should have pressured that. And then I didn't feel good about the masks, and I didn't feel good about XYZ, ABCD. Yeah, that led me digging into like how the church handled the Jews when World War II was going around, and I didn't believe with that. I was like, you do not just go along with that kind of government system. And how they handled Black people and all of the other things that I just could not, like, it was just jarring to me. I just opened a can of worms. And I think that it really solidified when I went into a session to heal my soul. And in the session, I mentioned that I've always wanted a nose piercing. And since I was like little teeny tiny, I always thought they were just beautiful, and I always wanted one. And it was interesting because I I was talking to my practitioner at the time, and she said, well, why won't you just go get one then? I said, because I don't want to go against God. I don't want to be a rebel. I want to be good. I'm tired of being bad. I'm tired of him feeling disappointed in me. I'm tired of XYZ. And she said, well, Emily, if this was Sophia, would you go give her a nose piercing? And I was like, yeah, of course. Why not? I mean, I'd pay for it. I'd support her. I'd love her. And she said, well, why? And I said, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter if she came out to me as lesbian. It wouldn't matter if she told me she hated my guts. It wouldn't matter if she wanted a nose piercing or a tattoo. It's my job to love my child. I love her. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I love her? And show her that I'm 100% for whatever she feels is her truth. And she looked at me and she said, why can't you let God give you that same mercy? And I was like, she's like, why don't you take a minute, close your eyes, and ask God how he feels about you getting a nose stud? And I closed my eyes and I prayed and I asked Heavenly Father with the deepest part of my soul how he felt about me getting a nose piercing. And he told me he would support it. And he told me that he would love it. And he told me that if he could, he would pay for it. And he would take me. And I thought to myself, that goes against literally everything I've been taught. Now I've got the garments thing. Now I've got the piercing thing. Now I've got a whole bunch of other stuff. And I just don't know what I believe anymore. So, of course, for a week, I scheduled an appointment to go get my nose pierced. And for a full week, I thought, I'm going to hell. I am going to hell. And I lived with constant anxiety for a whole week. And every time I questioned myself, I would pray to God and I would ask him how he felt about me getting a nose ring and nose piercing. And he told me I would love it because it lights up your soul. And I was like, okay, if it's truth to me and it's okay with you, then I'm going to do it. So I went out and I got my nose piercing, and guess what? Best decision I ever made. It was the most spiritually enlightening, beautiful experience. It has brought me closer to God. It has created wedges in my relationship with religion, but I feel closer to God than I ever have in my life, because every time I choose something, I'm choosing something for myself now and not because the church told me to. I've learned a lot. I've learned a ton about loving people and the spiritual journey that I've gone on. And the one thing I did tell my practitioner when I was doing this session is I said, my biggest fear is leaving the church and then hating the church. And she said, why is that your fear? I said, because if I'm leaving a religion because it's toxic, I'm not going to become a toxic person. There's no point in leaving a religion. If I'm leaving a religion, it's going to be because I'm ready to expand my light and love. And I'm not going to do that by hating on a religion. So just so everyone is aware, I'm not here to hate on the LDS Church. I'm not going to go and make ex-Mormon posts. I'm not here to disrespect anybody's spiritual experience, because I don't want that to happen to me. Any LDS person out there who comes up to me and tries to disrespect my spirituality, I will not be doing the same thing to you. I will respect exactly where you're at. I truly believe that everybody's going to find their own truth. And whether that is from the LDS Church religion or from the Jewish religion or from Catholics or from spirituality and Buddhism or whatever it may look like, it's okay. It's truly okay so long as it aligns with your truth, and so long as you feel close to God, and so long as you feel like love is in your heart, and so long as you feel like it lights up your soul. It's okay. And that's kind of where I'm at. Right now, I'm just learning how to live my truth. I'm learning what my truth is. I'm learning what truth looks like for me, and knowing that my truth and my husband's truth is going to look different, because me and my husband have different views. Right now, he loves the LDS Church, and we've had conversations, and me and him, I'm so grateful I have an amazing husband, because I talked to him about this and he goes, oh, you don't want to be a part of the LDS Church? And I'm like, no, not really. And he goes, well, that's okay. Are you going to be close to God? And I said, yeah. And he goes, then I don't care. So long as you have the divine. He said, honestly, if I had your life experience and if I had all the trauma that you did about church, and I've watched you struggle for 5 years, and he's flat out told me, he's like, I don't care. So long as you have a good relationship with God, I don't care. And that's something that he has told me. And so I am so blessed to have a husband where my spiritual crisis did not affect our love for each other. We can live totally civilly and in total harmony, and it's okay. If he wants to take Sophia to church, it's fine. If she wants to stay home, it's fine. She can model after both of our parents because we both love each other, and it doesn't matter to me. If my mom wants to take her to nursery, that's awesome. Doesn't bug me. She can go wherever she wants to, and it's not going to bug me if she gets a nose piercing or if she's like, Mom, you're going to hell because you won't get sealed in the temple. You know? Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's okay. Anyway, I know that this is long. Thank you for sticking through all of this. Holy cow. I appreciate it. It is way long. But that is my story. That's why I love the LDS Church. That's what I'm discovering and what I've discovered. And there's no hate here. There is absolutely no hate towards the LDS Church. I am so grateful for what the LDS Church has brought me. It has brought me a relationship with God. It has taught me more about about God than anything. I feel like anything. I don't know how else I would have come in contact with God. I don't know how I would have learned so much. It was through breaking away from the LDS Church that led me to God and led me closer to him. So I can't hate on that. I can't hate on the church that brought me closer to God, even though it was leaving the church. So it's strange and it's weird and it's backwards from what I'm sure a lot of people are used to hearing. But that is my story, and it is real and it is raw, and please don't come after me and try to convert me. That's not where I'm at. I need to work on my own stuff, and I don't know what the future holds. I don't know. But that is what I know, is that I'm okay, and that God loves me, and that I'm always constantly working on having a better, closer, more spiritual relationship with him. And yeah, it's okay if you need to do this too, and if you need help, let me know, because I have so much compassion for people who are struggling with spirituality right